Welcome to douglAR Radio in Atlantic Studio. We want to welcome each and every one, our viewers, our listeners, our texters, our callers. We want to welcome you to the program. Of course, you know this is the program where you get facts, not fiction. We bring the truth to you without clothes. We give you naked truth. I think it's the best way that you could get it, naked. Of course, today we had the Sandy Grande Regional Corporation that was supposed to be with us today, but because of certain actions and because of unseen circumstances, they would not be with us today. However, in studio, we have none other than the man himself, the attorney at law, my friend, one who stood up with me on a number of occasions, and one who will continue to stand and fight on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So I want to welcome the attorney at law with us here this evening, none other than Baig, the man who will do what he have to do in the interests of the party and of course in the interests of you, the people. So I want to welcome him to the program here this afternoon. Of course, we have Archie as usual on the keyboard and the man himself behind the scene. And without Archie, of course, this program would not be able to live stream. So we want to thank Archie for the job that he continued to do, not only on Wednesday, douglAR Politics, on Monday, Monday Night Forum, on Tuesday, whenever TNT speaks, on Saturday, and on Tuesday, and also on Friday. So we want to welcome you. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, of course, the plane is fuel, and the pilots are here, and we're going to take you through this program smoothly. It may get rough. Some turbulence might be expected as we go along, but nevertheless, we will take you off and we will land you safely, so you will have a better understanding as to the affairs of your affairs, the way in which this country, the direction in which this country is now heading. And I could afford to tell you that we are on the path of a sudden crash. And of course, you, the people of the country, have the power to change the direction and to allow good governance to prevail. So as we kick this thing off, before I bring in my good friend, I want to more or less set a preamble as we go along. Ladies and gentlemen, there is so much that is happening in governance, so much that is happening, so much buff, and who don't want to talk about that, and who not interested, and who, you know, who say and who tell, and who is aware, and who didn't know, and who this and who that and who the other. And it seems like it's a kind of Houdini government that is really running the country. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I will start off by setting the foundation. When Keith Rowley spoke of the Cosa Nostra, and actually you could find that by the time for me, and he went at length to explain to you as to how the structure of this entity, which is called the Cosa Nostra, the structure in which and the way in which it operates. And when you choose not to keep the secrets, then there's a consequence. And I could tell you, listen to this. Listen to this.
We keep each other's secret. It's only when you break rank, you go there and expose us, and for that, we're going to kill you politically. code of the Cosa Nostra. As long as we stay together, we will survive together. And we agree not to breach the code of secrecy.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to draw your recollection to Nicole Olivier. I want to draw your recollection to Lee Hunt, who was the Minister of Utilities, Public Utilities. Nicole Olivier was the Minister of Energy and Energy Affairs. I want you to understand why Lee Hunt and Olivier is not within the cabinet of this country. Why Nicole and Lee Hunt is not a part of the close-knitted circle that now exists within the rank and file of this government. And I will tell you, the reason why they are not there is because they went outside. They went outside the Cosa Nostra. And when they went outside the Cosa Nostra, there is a price, and Keith Rowley could not have said it better. Nicole Olivier, under her watch, we had a forensic audit into Petrotrin, into the fake oil scandal. We also had Lee Hunt, who stood up against certain fundamental principles of Keith Rowley and had to resign. Ladies and gentlemen, this organization, while some of you may want to call it a cult, and while some of you may want to support the behavior of the Prime Minister, I am saying today that this is a clear-cut case of the Cosa Nostra, Trinidad style, that is operating within governance. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are faced with all these dilemmas that we are now faced with, causing not only embarrassment, but heavy conspiracy, not only to pervert the cause of justice, but to arrest political opponents who would have stood out and stood up against the behavior of this Keith Rowley government. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a situation that warrant your intervention as citizens of this country. You cannot sit down. You cannot lie down. You cannot put a rocking chair in your veranda and just allow what is happening in this country to happen. And today, I, Victor Roberts, I am making a clarion call for you, the people of this country, very soon to a date that I will announce, that you will shut this country down by lawful, peaceful protests. The Constitution, and my friend will help you to understand, the Constitution gives you freedom to lawfully and peacefully protest in this country, and this is what we must do in order to demand good governance. We can no longer sit down and allow this runaway Keith Rowley government to behave together with his ministers, who we are now seeing, who we are now understanding their behavior, and not only their behavior, but the way in which they go outside of the law, outside of the Constitution, outside of moral and spiritual values, to get their opponents in a position that you, the citizens, will have doubt in your mind as to the credibility of those who will seek to represent you. This is the behavior of the PNM. This government, ladies and gentlemen, over the years, for the past 7 years, have breached not only the Constitution, but they have interfered and tampered with your civic right. They have interfered and tampered with your constitutional rights in this country. They have gone to the parliament, a place where we would expect law and order, a place that we consider to be the highest court of the land. And they have breached standing orders. They have interfered with the 2/3 and the 3/5 majority. They have brought legislation which requires special majority with the help of a speaker, and pass those legislation with simple majority. You, ladies and gentlemen, they have brutalized you when you seek to stand up, whether it be by peaceful protest or peaceful demonstration. They have utilized the armed forces to brutalize you, to shoot tear gas upon you, your children, the elderly, persons who would have stood up against the draconian measures of this government. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing how government ministers continue to breach and to break the law, how they continue to misbehave themselves while they hold in public office. We have seen Keith Rowley, who had admitted that he was the individual that went to President House, that interferes and interfere with your democratic process of a police service commission that legally did their job, and because of personal vendetta against Gary Griffith, who stood up and tell this country that the Prime Minister wanted him to arrest members of the opposition. The Prime Minister harassed him to fast track FUL for friends and family. The Prime Minister wanted him to give explosives to a friend without the necessary approval. This is the Prime Minister that I am speaking about. And when we, ladies and gentlemen, saw the breach that the Prime Minister conducted and mashed up the whole police service commission, it didn't stop there. We have also seen a senior counsel, when they move fire Attorney General Faris Alwari, who is now the center of controversy. They had brought in a man who was at the chair at one time in relation to the Law Association. This gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, went abroad in a foreign jurisdiction and lied blatantly to a foreign court. And yet, when he returned, and we would have expected that the Prime Minister would have reigned in that individual and strip him just as he had stripped Faris Alwari, the Prime Minister stood up, and it appears as though he pat him on his back and said, "Good job, my servant." Worse yet, when we believe a law association who would hold the code of ethics high, who would stand up for law and order. Yet to the end of the day, we have had some senior attorneys, not this one here, he didn't support, who would pat Amor on his back and voted in favor.
They call him Reggie.
By saying Reggie is a good boy. Ladies and gentlemen, we have also seen Foster Cummins, the minister of what? And Foster, let me ask you this one time. I want to ask you, Foster, if you had fixed the last button on Rogoli's shirt recently. So let me know pour water in my mouth. Foster, I am asking you, did you ever color the Prime Minister? That's a question asking for a friend. If that is so, you could tell us. But Foster Cummins, who had a special branch file. Let me tell you something about the special branch. The special branch is a part of the TTPS who would investigate threats, whether domestic or foreign, who will look at suspects who they believe might be involved in terrorism. They will also look at government and opposition MPs and senators. They will conduct investigation into a number of affairs. This entity had put together a report on Minister Foster Cummins. That report, ladies and gentlemen, was submitted. And to the end of the day, while the Prime Minister of this country, the head of the National Security Council, as he liked to boast about, who would have had knowledge of such a report, to the end of the day, the Prime Minister removed Foster Cummins from being a government senator and give him a promotion to a member of parliament. You could understand this? This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we have for governance. We have had Faris, Al Rental, Al Wari, Al Indemnity, Al everything. Recusal, everything. The opposition leader, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, stood up on a Monday night forum and on other platforms and spoke of this document that finds itself within her presence, and speak of this same deal with Nelson. I could remember the Prime Minister stand up, I believe it was at Pigot's Corner, and try to say that the opposition want to protect white collar crime. And he went on and used Abdul Malik with the Gale and Benson situation to justify, in so many words, that nothing is wrong. He went on and tell us that there is other jurisdiction who utilize this same pattern in order to solve and to bring perpetrators to justice. What the Prime Minister didn't tell you is either he is a natural dunce to our constitution or he is a part of the Cosa Nostra. Let me repeat that. What the Prime Minister did not say to you is either he was a dunce to the Constitution, or he was a part of the Cosa Nostra. Because, let me tell you something, I doing a little bit of law. A little bit. And let me tell you what I understand thus far. The Attorney General, and I will give my attorney brother to explain this further to you. While the Attorney General have some powers in civil matters, when it reach to this line, where criminal matters would step in, the prerogative stops at the feet of the Director of Public Prosecution. That is where it stopped. And if the Attorney General had any sense, if the Attorney General, well, you see, I hear Anil spoke about how much years he had to do the exam over and over in order to pass. I hear Anil say that, so don't hold me to that, hold Anil. I just repeat it. It tells me, ladies and gentlemen, that it's either, let me restructure that. I'm an attorney friend here. Let me restructure that. I want to ask the Attorney General, did he really pass his exam or he pay for it? I want to ask that question. I am asking, and I ain't asking that for a friend, I'm asking that for me. I am asking Faris Alwari if he really passed his exam or he pay for the document. That is a question I am asking. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot tell me a man who makes up the cabinet, which is really two according to the Constitution, the Prime Minister and the Attorney General. Really two. And everything kick off from there. A man who you put as Attorney General, you will tell me that this man so dunce and dotish, that this man so idiotic, that he didn't know that the DPP had the responsibility with the pack of cards. Let me explain the pack of cards. You know, it does with the cards. Any game you go in and play that had to deal the card. So any deal that had to take place through that man they call the Director of Public Prosecution. So Faris Alwari, who now allegedly telling us that Hines did know, Rowley did know, Small Pin Stuart Young did know, and this one did know, and that one did know. Faris, you know what the biggest problem with that? The citizens didn't know. So while inside the whole mafiosa, while they could have conspired inside of there, and while they could have agreed to pay $6 million to the lawyers of Nelson, while the state prosecute Nelson, the state, and I'm saying this for you on the streets, I want you to understand what is happening, because watch, when you get locked up for selling a piece of weed, when you get locked up for smoking a joint that Rowley say 3 grams and 30 grams and 3 trees, when you get locked up for not paying a ticket, and when you get locked up for obscene language, and when you get locked up for anything, stand up by the wall of justice, you know what happen? The state prosecute you, they put you in prison, and the prosecutors beg the magistrate for no bail. But while you are inside the prison tonight, while you may have court Monday morning, while you cannot find money to pay an attorney, the state, Rowley, Alwari, Stuart Young, Brian Manning, Beckers, Kazem Hussein, Rohan Sinanan, and the whole team paying the lawyers to represent a man who them lock up. So today, I am asking all you guys in prison to file matters in the High Court against the government for discrimination. Because the government is discriminating against you as our citizens, while they will pay money to represent a man that them lock up, that them charge, that them prosecute. They paying the lawyer's bill, and you in jail, and you on the outside who have matters before the court cannot find money to pay your lawyers. We have to put the government in court, because if that bill, if they could pay the bill for a criminal from another jurisdiction, then they must pay the bill for you in our jurisdiction who is on less charges than this individual. This is what your government has done to you, the people. And today, when we would expect, I saw the criminal justice system chairperson put out a statement. Criminal Bar Association. That is Israel Khan, senior counsel. And while I have problems with Israel Khan, while I have problems with him, I welcome his statement. You know why? Because when Kamla Prasad Bisesa spoke about the money that all them attorneys collecting who support Reginald Amor, you see, all of them had a problem. All of them had a problem. And my question was, what did Kamla do wrong? Taxpayers' money, our money, we must know how our money spent. So Israel Khan, while I commend him for taking a stand, as far as I'm concerned, testicular fortitude, Israel Khan, I will not label it by your name. That is me, Victor Roberts. I will not label it there. You see, we must not be opportunists, and we must not, the law must not be convenient. The law must be fair, and it must appear to be fair. So don't give me a condemnation on one hand, and then how could I support Reginald Amor on another hand? But that is a matter and a discussion for another time. So I am telling you, the people of this country, before this month finish, I am going to make a call before this month done. And I'm asking you to protest right where you live in. I ain't asking you to go in Tong. Me ain't asking you to go Sando. I am asking you to protest right where you live. Right there. And then, and only then, we would be able to get justice and allow the Constitution to have the preeminence in this country. That is what we must do. So at this time, I want to ask my attorney friend to go back a little bit from where the Prime Minister interfered and give you from a legal perspective what the Prime Minister had done when he confessed that he was the man that went and interfered, and come right down to the scenario where we are today. And the reason why I want him to go back up a little bit is so that you will have a clear picture as to when you allow breaches of the Constitution to take place without taking a stand. It will continue from here, it will come down here, and it will go back up there. There will be no end until we remove this government from office. So I invite my attorney, my good friend, the Honorable Dominable Brian, to speak to you at this time.
Well, thank you very much, Victor. It is a pleasure to be here with you all. I recognize my colleague, Mr. William Archie, a very good friend of mine. You know, you gave a plethora of a lot of examples and instances where we saw where there's clear-cut interference by this government with independent bodies. We've seen it. Yes, you're quite correct where there was the interference of the Police Service Commission. We saw that where Dr. Keith Rowley, he admitted he was the man that interfered with the list. He was the man who went in and said, hey, stop that. And he should not have done that. That is a breach of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. You see this document I have here? You see this? This is the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. Besides the Holy Bible, this is my other Bible. This is what we use to show the laws of this land. So it is quite clear that there were so much breaches. So you must understand that. My good friend talked about protests. Now let me tell you something. Yeah? Under section 4, 5, and 6 of the Constitution, we have some rights in this country. Yeah? One such right is the right to assemble. The right to assembly. That's under section 4 of the Constitution. Just to be advised, just to say. Right? So when people say you have no right to stand up here, you have no right to be here, there is something called the constitutional rights. Eh? But nonetheless, that is one way they have done it. So Dr. Keith Rowley was very much in breach of the law there. So again, breach of the separation of powers as well. He had no right to do that. And we come now to what has been going on in this country today. As you know, just this week, there was the discontinuation of a matter at the Magistrates Court by the Director of Public Prosecutions. And all because there was this clear interference as well, where they had this so-called indemnity agreement that was made. Now, we must understand the Constitution of this country. Eh? Now, Section 75 of the Constitution talks about that there must be a cabinet. And that cabinet will consist of the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Right? And it shall consist of the Prime Minister under 75(2), a such number of person who shall be the Attorney General. So I go there. So we have the Attorney General. But the Attorney General under section 76(2) talks about his remit in the civil arena. The civil arena is where his remit is. Anything of the criminal nature is to that of the Director of Public Prosecution. And the Director of Public Prosecution's position is an independent position. And that position is also created by the Constitution under section 90. So let me go back to my Bible. The other Bible that I have. Section 90. And I have it here. Section 91. Subsection 2. There shall be a Director of Public Prosecutions of Trinidad and Tobago, whose office shall be a public office. 3. The Director of Police shall have powers in cases in which it considers A, to enter under the criminal proceedings against any person before any court. I don't see Attorney General. Right. B, to take over and continue any such criminal proceedings that may be instituted by any other person or authority. But as in criminal proceedings, I don't see the Attorney General. Right? C, to discontinue at any stage before judgment is delivered any such criminal proceedings is instituted, which the director did, the DPP did on that day. he discontinued because of some, this thing with Mr. Nelson. Sir, with all due respect, Mr. Nelson, when this so-called indemnity agreement was being made by this Attorney General, sir, the Attorney General had no rights in law to do what he did. Because under the Constitution, that fell under not the remit of the AG, it fell under the remit, Victor, of the DPP.
But I have a question there, if I could interject.
Sure.
Wouldn't Mr. Nelson, who is considered to be a Queen's Counsel,
Well, it's now King's Counsel.
a King's Counsel, wouldn't Mr. Nelson himself be aware that the Attorney General does not have that authority?
Well, you would like to hope so. You would like to think so. But when I hear the amount of money that I hear that man was going to get, sometimes, they say, it clouds the mind.
But wasn't the same Nelson? Let me not go there yet, because I'll go later. Because I wanted to keep a train of thought. I wouldn't go there at this time, but it have to do with advice from that the government solicit from Nelson over a period of time. But when you finish, we'll get it.
But with that, I think is a horse of a different color.
Yeah.
But with the matter at hand, the substantive matter at hand, is that you had a man who was the then Attorney General, who came and boasted that there's this indemnity agreement that was done. And I must say that the Director of Public Prosecution made it quite clear, publicly, he's in the dark with that matter. And then, when the AG then wanted to come and bring him into the dance by saying, listen, we have done this indemnity agreement, we want to bring some things before you via a letter. I think I actually have that letter. Via a letter. And I love how the DPP responded to him by telling him, listen, partner, you see, that's why you're bringing me in. I wish not to be a part of it. I wish not to be brought into it, because the AG was out of his league. He was out of doing anything. He should not have done it. Because there is something called the separation of powers. And the separation of powers, the government must stay out of the issues concerning that of prosecution criminally. Because at the end of the day, the Attorney General is a politician. And the office of the DPP must be removed from the tentacles of, there it is, from the tentacles of politicians. So by Faris doing that, you broke the law. You should not have been doing that. And I'm saying here today, I want to echo the call of the leader of the opposition, that there must be an investigation into Faris Harawi. There must be, because you were wrong, sir. And then I listened to his press conference. And I heard him say he speaks on behalf of the government. How is the Minister of Local Government speaking on a matter of criminal issues where the AG should have spoken on? How? Did the cabinet say, okay, Faris, you go talk on that?
Good question.
Right?
I like that.
How could he have spoken on that? Sir, with all due respect, you should have gone to the Attorney General, who is Mr. Amor, Senior Counsel, and say, Reggie, sorry, Mr. Amor, I'm not those who can call him Reggie.
But
right?
I thought the Prime Minister say cabinet is not a parlor. What you talking there is parlor behavior, boy.
But it's more than
just jump out and go on representing the Attorney General, a former Attorney General.
What he should have done in that press conference is talk about how flooding is going to be
exactly.
ended, how he's going to ensure
that is a very good question.
Right? How councils can get their monies for rent. That's what he should have been talking about. Or he should be talking about how much bush he going and cut with cutlass.
So tell me something. For him to go on behalf of the government, they would have sat down and say, Faris, you need to go and do this. So is this a big parlor or Cosa Nostra?
But I want to say that Faris Al-Wari would not have said that he is speaking on behalf of the government if he wasn't given the authority to do so.
But in addition to that, Victor, we have to also understand that this man came and said to the nation, well, it wasn't me, I wasn't acting on my own, you know.
Yeah.
I was advised. And advised by two senior counsels. Two. Whether what they are, who was calling, who Reggie on whatever day, you were advised by two senior counsels. And for something I'm telling you, that it doesn't settle with me. Because these are two learned senior counsels. You telling me that two senior counsels advise you to do the wrong thing? I disagree with that. And I want to know as well, when that advice was that advice given in writing? We want to see it. Two, was that advice paid for? And was it paid for coming out of the office of the Attorney General?
Well, of course, that advice would have to be paid for, one, and I'm jumping ahead. And secondly, I am thinking that when you are a part of the Cosa Nostra, then you would not, because I would believe that if I am a senior counsel, especially I saw names called, and if I was a senior counsel and it was in the public domain that I have given advice, I would have come out and said, well, look, yes, I give advice, but not that advice. Or I might have very well said, well, look, I don't know what this man.
But Victor, I hear you. No, I have worked at that office before. I have advised persons, right, in my capacity as a private attorney at law. And I don't think I would advise anybody to do something that they should not do.
Right. But if it was your name that was called and say, look, I receive advice from Mr. Brian, won't you come out to the public and clear your name if you didn't give such advice?
Well, if it was me, maybe I would have.
And that's the point I'm making. I would have believed that if these two gentlemen names were called and they did not give that advice.
But further to that, yes, I am echoing the call for an investigation. But I am also echoing the call that Faris Al-Rawi needs to be removed from the cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago because of this. Because understand something. These two gentlemen that were charged and brought before the courts. We must understand who these two gentlemen are. One is a former Attorney General, a senior counsel too. Another one was a former senator. Very, very good attorneys at law. These men also have a record of beating the PNM in court. This man, one of them especially, has a record for beating Faris while he was Attorney General. That was Anand Ramlogan.
Yep.
So I am saying here that this also was a way to tarnish these men's name. So I am saying here today that Faris needs to be removed from the cabinet. Because, you know, in the days of my grandmother, I always remember my grandmother used to tell me, Eric Williams is accept nobody doing stupidity in the government. Had this been a Manning PNM or a Williams PNM, and that minister did what he did, let me tell you something. He don't get fired. They might have sent him in some remote country.
Me, I believe you, but
right?
PNM always.
And let me tell you why I support what Brian is saying there. I will support that based on the fact that Eric Williams may not have had information. But if Eric Williams had information and agreed to what Faris was going to do, then he can't fire him. So I am wondering
if his boss knew what he was doing.
No, I am wondering why Rowley would not fire Faris.
Well, that's the next thing. Faris said he spoke to no one on this matter. Then all of a sudden we saw a document that was released. In fact, I got it in my mailbox, right? That showed that he was questioned and asked if he spoke to anybody about the Nelson matter, the indemnity. It showed he spoke to Dr. Rowley, Stuart Young,
Hines,
Fitzgerald Hines. Look at that. Fitzgerald Hines, Renuka Sagram Singh. Look, imagine that. Sagram Singh Sukla, my former law classmate, right? All of them was hearing that. So who really not talking the truth? You know, I don't like to say the word lie. I like to use court language. Somebody is not being friends with the truth in this matter, right? Because something it just ain't right. And I am saying today, because of the breach of the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, the breach of the separation of powers by Faris Arawi, who should know better, who ought to know better.
But it's not Faris alone. And the reason why I went straight back to the President and Bliss Sipasad and Pete Rowley is to show that the separations of powers were manipulated from the inception coming down.
Well, you are so right.
So it becomes a way of the PNM now that they don't care.
That is why this PNM government, this PNM government, led by Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, is clearly and truly a government of runaway horses, right? And that stable is not being controlled at all, because the head of the stable himself is not doing anything right, because he himself broke the law, right? Further to that, you have to also understand, my friend, right, that I am happy that the Criminal Bar Association spoke out against it. I am happy the Southern Assembly lawyers spoke out against it. I am sure the Law Association will speak out on this. I am sure they will. I'm sure they will. Right? That my association, I am a member of the Law Association. I am a paying member of the Law Association. I just saw my name on the list tonight, and that I am still on record as a member of the Law Association.
So it have people that don't pay? It have lawyers that be storming and bombing and...
That can happen.
But listen, isn't a precedent set? Because I know of just about a month ago that the Minister of Labour, Stephen McClashy, took tutor to court, and a judgment was given by the industrial court where tutor
They took an injunction out. They took an injunction.
Right, from protest action and so on and so on. But on that occasion, I noticed that the minister himself did not speak. The Attorney General came out and speak in relation to that matter.
Because the Attorney General...
Right, hold up. But why would a sensitive, serious matter like this indemnity, the Attorney General did not came out and speak on the behalf of the government like he did with Stephen McClashy, but the man himself, Faris Al-Rawi, was sent to talk on that matter?
Well, the Attorney General currently, Mr. Reginald Amo, Senior Counsel, did give a statement, but his statement was more about that, he was so surprised that it happened, and then
his statement was more about going after Annan and Ramli.
And then he said it wasn't over yet. But I am very, how can I say it? I am very worried how Mr. Amo came across with that. Mm-hmm. It made it look as though he coming out and say, hey, I come in for you.
Well,
I want to say today, Mr. Amo, with all due respect to you, sir, really and truly, your credibility really and truly has waned a lot. And I think really and truly that, Mr. Amo, you should resign as well. You should go. Because by the fact that this nonsense happened, and you are now the Attorney General, you also, you are a senior counsel.
But Amo didn't come out and tell the country that he will write to the DPP seeking some sort of investigation into this whole proceedings. He didn't come out and tell the country that, look, I am seeing a conflict of interest by the state prosecuting this individual, and at the same time the state is paying $6 million to represent the same individual.
But I don't understand.
So the point I'm making, he was not forthcoming by looking to get down to the root of what really transpired between, whether it be Heinz, Stuart Young, the Prime Minister, and whoever. But he was more or less, he came across trying to convince the public that, look, it ain't over yet. I am going to use my office to see what civil proceedings could be brought against these individuals. I what you're saying in a nutshell.
But you see,
So-
again, it just shows again that this is not a government operating for the people. This is a government operating to prosecute people, right? A government must be there to ensure that a country can be governed and to ensure there is proper governance, not to be a government to prosecute. Let me tell you something, my friend. This is not the days of where a man riding on a horse with an axe and say, you know what, I don't like this village, burn it down. You know what, I don't like these fellas, get rid of them. It ain't working so. We are governed again, I'll say it. We are governed by laws in this country. And one major law that was in breach is that it is showing that the AG tried to do the work, the work of the Director of Public Prosecution, and that should not have happened. I am glad that the DPP came out and made it quite clear that, sir, you're not supposed to be doing what you're doing. Basically, as you tell them, keep me out of your kankalang, keep me out of your nonsense, right? Further to that, we also will see here, right, is that the Prime Minister of this country, sir, your government is constantly being showed to be wanting. Your government's country is showing that they're not working. For God's sake, Dr. Rowley, I strongly recommend call a general election, sir. Call a general election. Your government is not governing well.
But can he afford to call an election with all these allegations that is in the public domain, not for the sake of winning or losing, but for the sake of being prosecuted for all these different allegations of misconduct, misbehavior? I heard the Prime Minister said recently that, just imagine, I am the subject of a investigation and by the Integrity Commission because I get a property in Tobago for 1 point whatever.
My friend, let me answer your question further. Can know you're coming from whether or not, if he could still be prosecuted or not, if he lost the election. My friend, if he's still be investigated, whether he's Prime Minister or not, the investigation will still be pending and it will still be going on. So if he feel anything could stop nothing from happening, well, he wrong.
Council, I have a question to ask you. You don't have to answer. Do you really believe that anything would come out of these so-called investigation in relation to Camille Robinson Regis, Foster Cummins, Faris Alwari, Keith Rowley, and the whole team? Do you really believe, and I say you don't have to answer, do you really believe that anything will come out? And my reason for asking the question is because we have, in every institution that should have been independent, we could trace some form of contamination, political PNM contamination in those independent institutions.
Well, my friend, I am a practitioner of the law. I believe that the rule of law must always reign supreme, and I can only hope and pray that the tentacles of politicians, especially PNM politicians, stays out and allow proper rule of law to reign supreme. That's what I can hope for. Because I will always say it, that if it was any other person, any other government in this country, that nonsense would have never happened.
But I saw that your association brought serious allegations against the Chief Justice. And when we believe that the Chief Justice would have been given the opportunity to clear his name, we saw where the Prime Minister took it upon himself and he told this country that there is not enough evidence that would warrant a tribunal. By doing that, creates two scenarios. One, you create a public perception that you are now in control of the Chief Justice, because if the Chief Justice, you want him to go left or you want him to go right, then you have the authority where you could kind of fiddle your way and have your way with the Chief Justice. That's one of the perception. And two, you create another doubt in the minds of the people, because I on the ground, I on the streets, and when you mention judiciary, as you mention judiciary, you will hear the public saying, "Who? What judiciary?" You understand? You will hear the public saying there's corruption.
Well, I understand where you're coming from, and I would say that these recent debacles that has been happening will have persons not having faith in our judicial system because of the nonsense that is happening, which has been caused especially by this government. Okay? I can tell you, to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, don't lose faith in our judicial system. But what you could do is lose faith in this government and call for this government to call an election.
But you recall that there were a chief magistrate by the name of Sherman McNichols.
Yes.
You could recall that there was an attorney general by the name of John Jeremy.
Yes.
You could recall that there was a chief justice by the name of Satnarayan Sharma.
I could never forget that.
You could also recall a DPP who stood up against.
Well, that was Mr. Jeffrey Henderson, who's now a judge. Mr. Henderson did that to Mr. John Jeremy by telling him, "Hey, button your crease, stay in your lane, and don't tell me how to do my job."
But wasn't the same playing field where they wanted to prosecute, they wanted to lock up and jail Basdeo Pandey?
Yes.
And therefore, there was also political interference, being so much that when that matter went before the law lords within their judgment made it quite clear that there were political interference in the whole process.
Yes, there was.
Right.
That's quite clear.
So here we are going with that. So then,
but I will go even further. Besides the Mr. Pandey's matter, right, which is, unfortunately, they're still before the court. But you must remember a man by the name of Finbar Ganga.
right?
Actually, remember that man? Finbar Ganga, who is very close to some members of my own family. Finbar Ganga was hauled before the courts for 10 years on allegations of corruption. 10 years. And that matter was thrown out. You know why? Lack of evidence. Thank God that this matter, which is now recent here, didn't take 10 years.
But attorney, my problem with all this, remains that why would we be able to see from judgments from our Supreme Court, which we call the final court,
The Privy Council.
the Privy Council, why we can see that there is political interference in this system, and yet to the end of the day, those who interfere and in what I will call misbehavior in public office, as far as prime ministers and attorney general, why is not those individuals hauled before the court to give not only an account but to set a precedent where going forward we will not have attorney generals and prime minister contaminating judicial process, whereby causing these matters after the taxpayers has paid millions of dollars in these matters to go down the drain. Because this matter with Anand Ramlogan and John Jeremy, taxpayers pay over $10 million because Nelson lawyers alone get $6 million. Who knows whatever deals, who knows the advice that Faris get according to he? Who knows how much millions was paid for those advice? Because I remember that the same Nelson gave an advice in the Malcolm Jones affair, and it cost millions of dollars, and that was less than a paragraph.
You see, that is why, I must agree with the leader of the opposition when she asks those questions as well. Because imagine, I am 11 years 30. A man a little more than me is a millionaire today from getting money from the state to defend a man. I don't know how that happened. Actually, you gotta tell me how that happened, boy. I think I need to find out how to get that.
No, but Trinidad and Tobago,
it is ridiculous.
We cannot continue.
It is ridiculous.
We can no longer tolerate that kind of misbehavior in public office.
But in addition to that, Victor, right? In addition to that, right? And you're quite correct. But you see, you must look at the common denominator in all of these things that has happened. Not only now, but in the past, the common denominator is the People's National Movement. That they have always interfered, have always been part of interfering with our independent institutions. Right? They have always been doing it.
But I have a question there. Is it to say that we in the UNC are to be blamed? And let me tell you why. Is it to say that when these things happen and a government change, is it to say that we just leave it as it is instead of going after those individuals who breach the Constitution and have them to be held accountable as to prevent any form of reoccurrence with this type of behavior? Because remember, we are speaking about Attorney General.
Well, let me interfere now. The UNC has, when we were in government, has made sure and deal with those things. The UNC, when we were in office in the People's Partnership, under Anand Ramlogan as the Attorney General, we must never forget, it was Anand Ramlogan who ensured to go after the Malcolm Jones matter, to ensure that we would get back our monies. That matter was going on in the court. Sadly, we lost government. But when Faris Alwari came back as Attorney General, it was Faris Alwari who discontinued that matter and said, well, let's forget that, come out of that. And Malcolm Jones was then put on a senior board. Right? We must never forget that. It was also the People's Partnership led by Kamla Prasad Bisasa with Anand Ramlogan as Attorney General, went to arbitration to get back the monies that was spent when they went to buy them boats that wasn't good, that Fitzgerald Hines liked to talk about. Those boats to do what offshore vessels. I was at the AG's office, I can tell you about that. Those boats had no anchor. Those boats had no propeller. Those boats had no onboard guns. They said the boat was to come with a platform for a helicopter. Well, not even a helicopter with Lego, built from Lego, couldn't even be there, because there was nothing like that. Anand Ramlogan made sure and won that arbitration case as Attorney General, and that was done. So the UNC has, in many ways, gone after to fix ills of the government. We must never forget the MV Sue, Jack Warner, who was then Minister of Works, went and made sure and see that we recovers money with that, which Anand Ramlogan was the Attorney General, went and made sure we recovers money with the MV Sue. Anybody remember that? The MV Sue that couldn't even stay afloat, and they spent millions of dollars with that, right? What else we did? But we must also remember, the People's Partnership, when we came into government, while fixing the ills of the PNM, we brought proper governance to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Just today, I mean, I'm sorry to go into this.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
In the budget debate.
Attorney, you're practicing for Parliament, but you're only banging up the desk. It coming across a little louder. Yeah, so you have to stop banging up the desk. When you go Parliament, you could do that.
sorry. Right? We must also remember, this budget debate, I tell you, the PNM is the greatest hypocrites that have. Imagine they will talk about the Aqua Center. They will talk about the Cycling Center. They will talk about all other things that was built by the People's Partnership. I imagine this. Remember they said that nothing was done when Kamla was there. Remember they said that?
Right. So Attorney, I mean, the check. And that is all well and good. I could help you go down that road. Right? We was going after Calderheart. We was going after all of them. But we didn't go after John Jeremy. And that is why we had the problem, because you see, if we went after John Jeremy, when John Jeremy allegedly misbehaved in public office, where the Privy Council could have said to us in this country that, look, it was serious political affairs. We had the DPP, who is now a judge, telling who had to put Jeremy in place. But the point I'm making is, we didn't go behind these individuals, and that is why Attorney General today and tomorrow may very well feel they could get away when they misbehave and they interfere in matters that they have no right, and they know they have no right. So what I'm saying is this: if we did set examples with people when they go against, and I know the partnership went behind recover money, I know the whole story, but yet still, when we have individuals misbehave in public office, we have to go behind them, especially an Attorney General, because I'll tell you this: if we deal with John Jeremy, in any form, whether the embarrassment form, whether to allow a thorough investigation to take place and let the chips fall where it may, but when we ain't do that, and if and when we get back into office, we don't deal with these matters, then we'll always create that opportunity. I come into the call. We'll always create that opportunity for somebody else to do it. Welcome, caller.
Good night to you, Mr. Roberts, and to the Honorable Attorney there. All right, this is Sahina Tomato Chokan Sadaruti. I want to permit me to put a question to all you. Now, I'm talking about the term indemnity.
Right, caller, hold 1 second. We're giving everybody 2 minutes today to make the call, so I just want to be fair to you so you can know how to operate.
Right. This is what the government of Trinidad and Tobago made an agreement with Lord Nelson. They made an agreement to give him a free pass. They made an arrangement to basically, from my vantage, to free him of all the wrongdoings, to prosecute somebody else. Two wrongs don't make a right. That is my thing about this. How can they use me as a citizen to make a decision to absolve this man of all his wrongdoings, to prosecute another people, and we want to go after white collar crime, and we freeing people with white collar crime? Remember Pandey and Ganga? I go on for Ganga. Go on, have a nice night.
So, caller, right, thanks for the comment. But, caller, the Constitution made provisions for the Director of Public Prosecution to enter into these kind of arrangement.
Yes.
Right?
See, in issues of plea bargaining,
right,
or issues of indemnity, in criminal proceedings, the Director of Public Prosecution is the person who is to deal with that. And the fact that sweetheart deal, I so love to hear that term called, sweetheart deal, that was made between Faris Alwari as Attorney General with Mr. Nelson, where he would be given so much of monies and so much of things, that the fact that he did not get what he had to get, he's now suing the state, and hence why it led to the discontinuing of the matter. And it shows again.
Welcome, caller.
Good evening, Mr. Roberts. Good evening, Miss Brian, Archie, and to everybody out here. Good evening.
That sounds like Miss Santa Cruz.
Yeah. Sienna, is there you know of anywhere that they conduct Liars Anonymous groups? Because we need to send these people from the PNM government into these anonymous groups, Liars Anonymous. Keith Rowley expects us to believe that the cabinet had nothing to do with that thing that happened with Vince Nelson. I don't know what it is wrong with this man. If we were in the days of Pinocchio, that man knows what I've done with Sean the Caribbean already, you know. I don't know what this man gets in line, and always coming to talk about the criminals in the UNC. Hey, mister, take a good look in Palisade House at the white-collar criminals and in your government. Look at the criminals who recuse themselves over 300 times plus, so that their families, friends, and finances would benefit from billions in contracts. Take a good look at the white-collar criminals who butcher the procurement legislation. to benefit their friends and families. Take a good look at that. And then come and point fingers at other people. Keith Rowley have no moral authority to speak to anybody. But you see, when he's speaking, he's not speaking to you and me. He's speaking to his sycophants and them. You understand? And lying to them. At another time, he told them that what people jealous that he could afford, the Rowley family could afford a house in Tobago. That is not the issue, Keith Rowley. The issue is and what the Integrity Commission he subjected to investigation. It's because you lied on the form. You lied and you received money, ill-gotten gains from that deal. Stop lying to the people and try speaking the truth for a change. But the longest rope has an end. God is shining his light on all the nasty little PNM. But I have a strong feeling that Vincent Nelson is not going to last long again. And that is why to make restitution to Anna Ram Logan and Gerald Ramdeen, that is what he did. But I want to remind the PNMI, when all you want to talk about, not because a case dropped for now, that the person, innocent, remember Landate and Keith Rowley? Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ms. Santa Cruz.
Hey, what about your partner from El Socorro? Always used to call in and talk about the reason UNC fall is because of Anna Ram Logan.
Yeah.
Eh? Why you don't call in to you today, boy?
Hey, Archie, let me tell you something. People quite aware of the man who sits in the chair as Prime Minister. And this is not white-collar crime. This is black-collar crime now. That is what's happening in this government. It's black-collar crime. To the end of the day, I think the best place if Keith Rowley wants to see a criminal, he needs to watch in the mirror. That is the best place for him to see.
You know what's up? It is amazing. Yeah? What I just heard about somebody talking about Anna and Ram Logan. I want to tell this nation, the man they call Anna and Ram Logan, senior counsel, that man as Attorney General, the amount of legislation that man ensured came into this country to fight for people when he was an attorney in private practice, doing it today.
Welcome, caller.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, gentlemen. I am slowly watching on because with the turn of these events, it's like a repetition of what has happened in the past. To me, it's like a conspiracy to get the taxpayers to always pay off these people in the benefit of the state. I have seen things like this been happening over and over again. The state accuse these people, then they lose their case and they turn around and then they sue the state, and then taxpayers' money pay these people off. So I'm just watching on at this one too. Good night.
Good night, caller, and thanks for your contribution.
That's a very nice contribution indeed. And Victor, I want to say it also that Anna and Ram Logan, right? I just want to say this with me, right? When I was becoming an attorney at law, Anna and Ram Logan was one of the main reasons why I wanted to become a lawyer as a young man. And I will always say that Anna and Ram Logan is still the beacon of light for many young persons who want to become lawyers in this country. Anna and Ram Logan, senior counsel, deserves the term senior counsel, that title. And I mean, man, when I hear certain things, I just hear, man, people don't know, working with that man, when I was there as legal counsel to the Attorney General, I would tell you this, as any young lawyer, or any person going to become a lawyer, you will become one very soon, sir, right? When you sit and you learn from that man, let me tell you something, eh? That man, legal knowledge is exceptional. And one person to ask over that is Senator Jayanti Lakshmi.
But let me add this to that. You could be of what stature in society. You could be as eloquent, you could be as knowledgeable. I want to tell you something. When you're here, the PNM want to get at you, they stop at nothing.
Oh, there's no doubt in that.
Added to that,
Even when they want to remove you from employment.
added to that, the media, I watch most of the headlines on Facebook because I stop by papers.
Oh, okay.
I do buy no papers again. I done with that. I am not going to support that rubbish bin that we have for media in this country. Welcome, caller.
Good evening, Victor. Good evening,
El
Brian.
Sikoro,
This is El
Brian.
Sikoro in the house. Yeah, excellent presentation so far, guys. Brian, welcome to the show. He's the right man for this for the hot topics going on in Trinidad right now. I mean, now, first of all, no disrespect to you, Brian, but I think my mom is right. My mom always says that lawyers are white-collar bandits. And, I mean, that does not, I'm sure it does not apply to Brian, right? But, I mean, what we're just discussing here, right?
El Sikoro.
We are discussing it. Yeah, go ahead.
El Sikoro, make your point. Whether you just make your point, lawyers is white collar branded. Your mother say you make your point. We go talk after. Don't worry.
Right? Okay, yeah. So phenomenal contribution, guys. I'd just like to get your opinion on if it's possible that he would be debarred from the law association or from practicing law in Trinidad for giving these allegations. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.
If who would be the...
Well, I missed that who. If who would be the bad? But if you're talking about Faris, it is left to be seen. If you're talking about Anand Ramlogan and Gerard Ramdeen, they are free. They are free. I saw Gerard Ramdeen tell the TTPS story too.
You want back, he want
Yeah.
back his laptop.
Well, the rate they going at, Faris could be free too because he's a good boy.
And
I think that's the standard all your law association set.
And that
if
is
you
where
is
the
a
trouble
good
is.
boy, then you're good to go.
Maybe
And
if,
Archie,
maybe
what-
if somebody brings up...
Let me tell you what we need to find out. Let me tell you what we need to find out. And this is what we need to find out. What needs to be done? Who needs to do it in order for all those who misbehave to be account? You see, it is all well and good we calling for an investigation because I support my leader full 1000%. And while I'm saying that, Rowley, let me just tell you this. You should be the last kid, Rowley, to talk about Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, because to step in her shoes, Rowley, to start with, your foot ain't washed clean enough. To start with. And your foot have to wash clean to walk in Kamala's shoes. And if you don't understand what I just say, you will catch it on your way home.
And I will say this as well, that the leader of the opposition led an excellent opposition bench with this last budget debate. I would say that our members of parliament, she gave an excellent response. And I want to also say that our MPs did an excellent, trashing of the worst budget I've ever heard. I would like to say a special good afternoon and good evening to the member of parliament for Komoto Manzana, Dr. Rai Ragbir. Pleasant good afternoon.
So my thing is, who and what needs to be done to ensure this investigation? Because let me tell you something. We have been calling for investigations upon investigations over allegations upon allegation. And the last one that I know about, this idiot that we have acting commissioner of police, and it's not you saying it, it's me. This idiot we have acting commissioner of police wrote a letter to the honorable political leader of the United National Congress and telling her that he wants assistance to find certain persons. So the TT, well, I don't understand why they can't find the criminals and why they have all the intelligence and they know who the gang leaders are and they know this and they know that, why they can't lock up nobody. Because at the end of the day, if you write in the opposition leader to ask for assistance to find an individual in this Faris Arwari Cayenne Porsche car with Kewal Singh and all that bacchanal, then it tells me that this investigation that we are now calling for in relation to what transpired with this indemnity, it will go under the carpet. We have called for
Victor, I will say this with Mr. Jacob, much is desired, right? If to say it nicely.
I find you make
right?
that I find you say that real nice.
Right? You are the TTPS. Now I heard when he asked that. I sat down in my office and I heard that, and I was like, there's a meme that says, really? You are the investigating body of Trinidad and Tobago called the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. But you come and say, well, come and help me now. Come and help me. Maybe I should become the Commissioner of Police of Trinidad and Tobago then.
But and that is what I keep telling Archie. The Cosa Nostra spread out. And I have asked on a number of occasions, right here, Archie, you'll be me out. I have asked as to how far the contamination of the PNM have infiltrated these independent institutions. I am asking how far it reach. Welcome, Gola.
Good night, Mr. Victor and your crew, Archie and Mr. Baig.
Good night.
Freeport here.
Good night, Freeport.
Hey, Victor, this Prime Minister could lie. The man could lie. You know, night before I watching a program, and this man say he don't interfere with the judiciary, he don't interfere with the police service. But in 2016 or sometime, in 2015, Kamala Prasad Bisesa and the UNC had Malcolm Jones in front of the court. And when this man get into power, he said that the UNC have Malcolm Jones in court and they won't expect he to further the matter. He said, but he would never do that, my words, but that's what he means, because Malcolm Jones bring a lot of wealth to this country. So somebody who bring a lot of wealth to this country could do all the wrong thing and get away. And when they find out that AV drilling was drilling oil and putting it in Coca's bag because the amount of oil he drilled, which you know, couldn't fit in the storage tank that they had. He went and talked to his friend and tell him, he said, here what happened. Don't worry, I go get Ramesh to bail you out, and that's what he do. So them only supporting all the thief in this country, boy. And I hear it had a woman, I can't remember, I don't know if Mr. Baig could help me with the name, I'm forgetting the name, that was trying to badmouth Jayanti some days ago about Shiram gave $10 million. And she say she does narrate the Ramayana in when they having oh gosh, this Rambila celebration. Madam, and she tell Jayanti that Shiram get $10 million. Madam, if you hear me, if you read the Ramayana and you know the benefit of Ram, the good thing that Ram do, you would never come here and follow your Ram, your Rawan, and you making people feel that 10 million is more than 130 million, that all your Rawan are located for a man to come and lie against Jayanti Ram.
Thank you, Freeport.
And that's going on.
2 minutes,
Okay,
we're giving everybody. Thanks for your contribution.
You know, Victor, I like how we talked about the issue of Malcolm Jones. Malcolm Jones' legacy with that GTL project is because we see when you're driving down the highway with that crab-like looking structure. That is his legacy. That is the legacy of the People's National Movement in this country. Well, you want to talk legacy? This is the legacy of Kamala Prasad Bisesa. You have the Children's Hospital, which it took a pandemic to open. I talked about the Aqua Center, the Cycling Center. That is legacy that you can boast about, right? So Malcolm Jones When I hear people say, boy, you know what thing agriculture do for this country? I say, yeah, give us a structure that couldn't even been used. Look at Petrotrin today. It's like a ghost town. Had that still been open today, our economy would have been building, our economy would have been better. We would have a refinery ensuring that we have money in this country. But no, the PNM, just like they closed down everything, they made sure and closed down Petrotrin.
But I want to come back to this subject.
To help their friend and protect their partners.
Who have the responsibility of initiating this investigation through the affairs of Faris Alwari? Is it to say that the DPP needs to write to the Commissioner of Police? That is something that I need to dig into.
But the Commissioner of Police has the remit. Oh, you have a caller?
Welcome, caller.
Good night. How is everybody tonight?
Good.
This is Mr. Kyle Taklal Singh. How are you doing?
Hey, Kyle Taklal Singh, man.
How are you, sir?
Kyle, how are you doing?
I am good. I was following the conversation and I thought that I had to call in and express my content at Mr. Brian Baig's analysis of all of the issues. Excellent legal analysis. And of course to commend the show. Brilliant job to everybody. I was just wondering, I wanted to comment on the issues generally because I know that this week has been a very, very hot week in relation to the revelation, in relation to a certain indemnity agreement that has been revealed to the public. And I want to join the statement of Mr. Rambali. I know you may have seen it, Mr. Baig.
Yeah.
That the Law Association needs to come out. They need to stop hiding behind their shadows and they need to come out and pronounce on this issue. And they need to join the call for the Attorney General and the government of the day to explain why it is a sitting Attorney General at the time got involved in brokering an indemnity agreement with a potential witness in a criminal prosecution. Brian, I know you would know the difference, that the decisions of a criminal prosecution lay solely with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution.
Yes.
And that the civil jurisdiction, which belongs to the Attorney General, has absolutely no place in a criminal prosecution.
Correct,
and they must
yes.
explain why the government involved itself, regardless of innocence or guilt. Let's take the actors out of it. Let us take Mr. Ramdeen and Mr. Ram Logan, brilliant attorneys, brilliant legal minds, brilliant attorneys and legal minds. Let's take them out for a second. Let's think about this as regular citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Why is it that the Attorney General is involving himself in the procurement of evidence in a criminal prosecution? He has absolutely no place. Let us take it from basic building blocks of the Constitution. The police must be independent of the executive and the government of the day. The police must carry out independent investigations. When the police complete their investigations, they must take a file to the independent office of the Director of Public Prosecution. What on earth is the role of an Attorney General in procuring evidence, regardless of whatever evidence came to them? What on earth is the role of an Attorney General who is a political appointee in the procurement of evidence in a criminal prosecution? None at all. Brian, I know you would agree with me. None at all. The Attorney General, regardless of Attorney General, has no role whatsoever in a criminal prosecution, or much less, and I would go so far as to say, inducing a witness into giving evidence in a criminal prosecution.
Kyle.
It is absolute madness.
Kyle.
Yes.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Kyle, you're quite correct, and you have strengthened the point that we have raised tonight, right? That again, under Section 90 of the Constitution, and I tell everybody, the Constitution is my Bible, is my Bible, right?
Yes.
that the Section 90 shows the powers of the Director of Public Prosecution, and the AG, the then AG, tried to undercut the job of the then of the DPP, and the DPP had to tell him in a letter format that, listen, is that what you just wrote me, sir? I will not advise you on it. And you're quite correct. As a criminal practitioner myself, right? I practice mostly of criminal matters, right?
Yes.
I'm very perturbed and disturbed that the AG at that time tried to interfere with the process of law, right?
Well, I want to say two things there, Brian, and this might be a little controversial. One, the first thing I want to say is I, Kyle Taklalsing, as an attorney at law, I am not ready to fully exonerate the DPP. I want to say that very plain, because these two gentlemen, Mr. Jared Ramdeen and Mr. Anand Ramlogan, brilliant attorneys, they have had their lives overturned because of this foolish prosecution. I want to say that first of all, right? And ultimately, the decision to charge was that of the Director of Public Prosecution. So I don't mind putting my name to saying that I don't think, right, that should have been done. Let me put it very plain, right? The DPP was fully aware of the circumstances and the very tenuous circumstances upon which this Mr. Nelson, and I'm not even going to add QC or KC to his name, right? Because I consider QC and KC and SC to be something of prestige. So take that out of it. Mr. Nelson, right, he is a compromised person. This is the same man, right, Brian, as you would know, change his mind, change his opinion on the Petrotrin issue.
Yeah.
There are entire 360, right? He gave the advice to file the case against what's his name? Malcolm Jones. Malcolm Jones. And then when PNM came in power, changed his mind. Right? So I can't say this DPP, but if I was DPP, I had very serious reservations about a witness who on one hand gives advice for one thing, and then a year or two later changes total mind. So for me personally, if I was DPP, I would have rare reservations and trust in a witness like that. But secondly, let's put the DPP aside. You have an Attorney General who is essentially dealing with someone who has, one, totally changed his mind and opinion, and two, who comes to you and says, well, I committed corruption. And that is the person that you are so impressed that you would seek to enter into an indemnity agreement, which is really like an immunity agreement. I saw the Southern Law Association had to change its mind, but they were right in the first instance, because it may really well have been an immunity agreement, right? You enter into that with such a person who is so willing to change their mind. I am not impressed. And I want to say that, one, I am not prepared to exonerate the DPP, but that is a matter we may have to get into in the future. But two, the police and the Anti-Corruption Bureau must look into the circumstances in which this so-called indemnity agreement was procured by the Attorney General.
Well, that is why, Kyle, the leader of the opposition, which I am supporting her view, has called for an investigation into Farah Salwari bringing about this so-called indemnity agreement.
Yes, I agree fully with her, and I support the Honorable Leader, Ms. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, SC, right? Because she knows and she understands the Constitution and she understands the independent role of the DPP. And I mean, while I don't want to attack the DPP, right, because he has done the honorable thing in this situation, I want to say that the police must look at everything holistically. And we must not be too prepared to exonerate people. But I want to say that the police must look at all the circumstances. They must examine every single piece of correspondence that went out here and determine whether or not, in fact, this was an indemnity agreement, or rather it was an inducement by a politically appointed Attorney General to induce a witness to give what you call, Brian, you will understand the term inculpatory evidence.
That's right.
Of inculpatory evidence or evidence which tends to, or at least, or appears to implicate Messrs. Ram Logan and Ramdeen in criminal conduct.
Well, clearly, Kyle, the inducement didn't happen because he's suing the state now.
Well, I don't know the circumstances, but this man is a flip-flop man. And and that's the point. When you come to getting a witness in a prosecution, Brian, you would have done many civil cases, so what have I? You don't put a witness, no lawyer in the world, much less for the DPP, puts a witness in a case that you know is a flip-flopper. Because
exactly.
you will take a statement from that gentleman, right? From any witness. And if you know he's a flip-flopper, he would go in the box and change his evidence 100%. And then you as the lawyer get in trouble because the judge wants to know, well, where did you take your instructions? So that's why I can't understand why a DPP in the first place would ever trust the evidence of Mr. Nelson. But put the DPP aside, right? Why on earth would an attorney general acting, right, in the best interest of the state as a political appointee ever in the world trust the evidence of such a person? And I want to say that could only be from my opinion.
And Kyle, you know and I know, due to what has happened by Mr. Nelson, the DPP had no choice but to discontinue the matter because of a lack of the evidence or witness.
That is where we will agree. He had absolutely no choice because that gentleman could not stand up to cross-examination from a first-year law student. Much less Miss Pamela Elder and whoever else Mr. Ram Logan had with him. Any senior counsel or any competent counsel would have torn apart Mr. Nelson's evidence. Imagine you are owed money by the state, allegedly. You get your money, and when you get your money, then you decide to give evidence. Absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. And this must be a wake-up call to all citizens in this country. Everybody in this country is concerned about the rule of law. They must wake up and understand what is happening and that we are essentially living in a dictatorship. Because one of the hallmarks of a dictatorship is when the ruling government is able to bring political prosecutions against opposition members. That is what you call a dictatorship. Yeah. And the fact that these two gentlemen, by the grace of God, are now exonerated, we must stand up for them and we must stand up for democracy and come out and challenge this government and call for the United National Congress to return to power, Brian.
But Kai, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Who has the constitutional responsibility to initiate that to call for that investigation? Would it be the DPP needs to write to the Commissioner of Police, or how that process is done?
I want to be very clear. The only person, save and except in very limited circumstances, the only entity that can initiate a police prosecution is the Commissioner of Police and a requisite and relevant police officer. Unfortunately, that is our constitutional setup.
Kyle has echoed the same thing I said. Is it the police has to do their investigations?
The police has to do their job, but unfortunately, let us not be naive. The police in this country is severely compromised because the head of the police service is dependent on his continued tenure on the good graces of the Prime Minister and the PNM, having regard, one, to the constitutional setup, and two, the fact that the Prime Minister was able to intervene in a constitutional process for the permanent appointment of a Commissioner of Police. He was able to intervene and interrupt and influence that process and allow a temporary, what I call a OJT police commissioner, to control the police service, right? And that, unfortunately, is a system we continue to live under at this point in time. But eventually, the Police Service Commission, and I hope under a very brave and independent judge, as far as I know her, Ms. Judith Jones, will eventually appoint an independent commissioner of police. And lawyers like myself, Brian, Mr. Dinesh Rambali, Ms. Jayanti Lakshmi Dayal, Mr. Dinesh Rambali, the lawyers in the UNC, will keep a hawk eye on that new commissioner of police, whoever that may be, to make sure they are doing their job independently. But until such time, unfortunately, we live under an OJT temporary 6-month or 3-month appointee police commissioner, Mr. Jacob, right? But one day, eventually, hopefully, we'll get an independent commissioner of police. And then we can have independent investigations in this country.
But Kyle, you would have heard the acting police commissioner said on a number of occasions, in order to initiate an investigation, a report must first be made to the police. So in this case, if we are calling for an investigation into the conduct of the then Attorney General Faris Alwari, then who needs to make that report?
Well, one, you and I are great friends, so I don't want to get upset with you, but you're saying something that makes me upset, right? Right? Because if that is the advice of the Commissioner of Police, he needs to go back to the barracks and train. Because the police service in this country, once information comes to them that a law has been broken in this country,
to investigate it.
They can, on their own initiative, initiate an investigation, right? So they don't have to wait for a report. So if they are aware, for instance, it happens all the time. You have these bad boys who bring who put up videos of brandishing weapons on Facebook and Instagram. Right. Nobody makes a report, but they end up. But you've heard reports where they end up and they go and arrest these fellas, or they go and look into the situation, right?
Well,
it doesn't need a report. Once they become aware that the law has been broken, they can do an investigation, and they are fully aware. And in fact, I know for a fact that the Honorable Senator, brilliant and brave Senator, Mr. David Nackett, made a report to the Anti-Corruption Bureau, and the Anti-Corruption Bureau is currently looking into the circumstances in which the Prime Minister intervened in a constitutional process to pervert the course of justice, and which ended up in the process of the Commissioner of Police, appointing a Commissioner of Police, being perverted by the Prime Minister and the President. And I know for a fact the Honorable Senator David Nackett has made that report, and the Anti-Corruption Bureau is now looking into that scenario.
Well, Kyle, you just 2 quick points I'll put here. One point where a phrase I love to use. That if we have to wait for the police to say they waited for a report to an investigation, well then justice delayed is justice denied, right? I love that term. Secondly, I want to say thank you as well for agreeing with the points I've raised earlier. So at least I know a legal colleague of mine knows what I'm saying is true. Right?
But Kyle, listen to this also.
Well, we work, Brian, we work in tandem, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that.
Kyle, listen to this also. We have seen in this country that a number of reports have been made to the police from the United National standpoint.
Congress, yes.
And we have seen that we continue to hear that the investigation is ongoing. There seems to be no end to those investigations. There's investigation since when Camille Robinson rages with the $143,800. Today there is nothing. There's investigation with fake oil. Gary Griffith, when he was about to leave, tell us that they were waiting for some scientific professional to come to do some survey in relation to the reservoir. Today there is nothing. And there's a number of allegations that just continue to exist, and it seems as though that nothing is happening. There is no justice being served. It appears as though that there is one law for the PNM and another law for everybody else.
Well, I want to say 3 things in relation to that. 3 things, right? And I want your listeners to follow very closely. One, the first thing I want to say, I want to remind everybody of the words of our honorable and great political leader. Brian, you will correct me. The truth will eventually come out. You could hide, you could obscure, but eventually, one day, the truth will come out. So I, as a citizen of this country, have said that God, my religion, my God, eventually will ensure that the truth in whatever evil plagues this land will one day come out, and those who have committed injustice will be held to account. So I have faith in that. Regardless of whatever faith you follow, I as a Hindu and I as a religious person understand that and I have faith in that. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is that the people of this country who are so concerned must rally and ensure that the United National Congress returns to power, because we will make the changes one day to the Constitution to ensure that the police service and the DPP are properly monitored so that the appropriate decisions can take place. I mean, I can't say, but one day, but let us say, for instance, if I were advising an Attorney General, if one day a brilliant lawyer such as Jayanti Lakshmidal or Dinesh Rambali or Mr. Brian Baig was Attorney General tomorrow, I would give them advice to say that you need a board, a supervisory board enshrined in the Constitution that will review decisions to prosecute and decisions not to prosecute and make recommendations to the DPP, because eventually that will provide accountability. So all of this landed scandal that all of a sudden went away, and all of this scandal that went on with CLICO and HCU that nobody knows, no prosecution take place, there would be an independent board, not supervisor of the DPP, but to recommend to the DPP, hey, Mr. DPP, you've had this long enough, and we make a public recommendation that a prosecution must be made. That is the position in England right now.
Well, Kyle,
Why do you have a
I want to
Crown
ask you something when you
Prosecution
finish.
Yeah. Why do you have a Crown Prosecution Service in England? There is an independent board that is appointed to review all prosecutorial services and all prosecutorial services in England, decisions in England. And I think such a board should be eventually implemented in Trinidad and Tobago, similar, so that we have review of both the police service and of the DPP. Okay? So those are my two recommendations that I would say to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, Kyle, I will tell you this. In 2013, 2014, the UNC, while under the People's Partnership, there was an idea that was being bandied about. As you remember, Kamala Prasad was created as well, the Ministry of Justice, to try and, mirror the Crown Prosecution Services in a way that it will do like what you're saying. Unfortunately, the government of the day, the People's Partnership, they would have met a lot of friction and a lot of resistance by persons who were within that system by saying, no, they don't want that. I don't even recall that.
I agree with you, but I think the population now, Brian, has become very, very sensitive to what is called, what I would term, political prosecutions in this country.
Yes.
And that is why I say that there must be an independent board that reviews decisions to prosecute and decisions of the police to recommend prosecution. Not necessarily to make the decision, but they must be staffed perhaps by retired judges and retired independent lawyers to look at the evidence and decide whether or not these recommendations to prosecute are in fact politically motivated. Because as I said, I am not 100% ready to exonerate the DPP in this matter, right? But let's put that aside for now.
Well, I will ask you this, Kyle, and I want to hear your view on this, Kyle, right?
Yeah.
As you would have heard, Faraz Al-Rari, when he said he was Attorney General, he was advised by two senior counsels, right?
Yeah.
Now, you're an attorney at law, I am an attorney at law. We are not as senior as those two gentlemen. But I know, if I know something is wrong, I will not advise you and tell you you're doing the right thing. I will not advise you to tell you the right thing. So when I hear that two eminent senior counsels will tell the then Attorney General, will go ahead and do that, I find it hard to believe. And I would like to know, and tell me if you think I am right to say this. I want to know, was those two senior counsels, were they given that opinion in writing, and also were they paid for such opinion? Because I think they need to pay back their money if they really gave that advice.
Well, let me put it this way, Brian. I don't know under what circumstances. I believe it is the very eminent Mr. Mendez and Mr. Prescott gave advice. I don't know, and I don't want to impeach those two gentlemen. They are seniors in the profession, Brian, and you and I know we don't lightly impeach seniors, right? But I wanna be very plain. If I, humble Mr. Kyle Sacklarson, who is not senior counsel, was approached by an attorney general to say, to ask for advice on whether the Attorney General and the state of Trinidad and Tobago should enter into any indemnity agreement with a potential witness in a criminal prosecution for the persecution and prosecution of any citizen, firstly, but secondly, of politically active persons. You know what my advice would have been, Brian? Mr. Attorney General, bat in your bloody crease. Bat in your bloody crease.
Same thing
that
I saying.
Absolutely nothing to do with you, Mr. Attorney. And I would have put it in writing and charged the same $1 million. It would not take 10 or 12 pages of opinion, you know.
That's a one line.
Yeah, one line. Mr. Attorney General, bat in your bloody crease. I, Kyle Taklal Singh, so advise. Right? And it's the simplest advice to make, because the only officers in this country that are suitable and constitutionally responsible for making decisions with respect to prosecutions in this country is the Commissioner of Police and the Director of Public Prosecution. You, Mr. Attorney General, you have no, with all due respect, and I apologize to your listeners for my coarse language, you have no damn place, Mr. Attorney General, in getting involved in that. And you will forgive my language, because as a citizen who is entrenched and passionate about the democracy of Trinidad and Tobago, I am upset. Let me tell you something, I have no brief for Mr. Ram Logan or Mr. Ramdeen. I respect them as brilliant lawyers, especially Mr. Ramdeen. Brilliant public law lawyer. I look up to him, he's a hero of mine. But put that aside for now. This DPP, that previous Attorney General had no damn place.
And that is why, Kyle, we must all band together and call for the removal of Faris Arawi from the Cabinet of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And must also tell Dr. Rowley, call an election now.
No, Brian, I apologize. We must not band together and call, right? You remember when we were in government, Brian, and there was a Section 34 march?
That's right.
You remember? I want a march on Port of Spain, Brian, because this is more than law and Facebook and keyboard warriors and all that nonsense. We, as the UNC, must march on Port of Spain. March on them fellas who feel they're more superior to us as lawyers and citizens. We must march on them and show them our power as United National Congress members. We must march on them and show them that we are not prepared to take that injustice. When you attack one, you attack all of us. Mr. Ramlogan and Mr. Ramdeen is one of us. And if you attack one of us, you attack all of us, and you attack us unjustly. And we must take justice into our own hands. I'm not afraid to say that. We must take justice into our own hands and march on Port of Spain and demonstrate our disgust for that previous Attorney General for taking this decision, and the current Attorney General who misled a court in Miami and is prepared to uphold this decision. Right? We must march on them and show them our power and resolve that we are not taking that bribe. That is what we must do.
Well, I agree with you. I agree that not only the UNC, but everybody must march upon this government. Everybody.
Yes.
Because just as we saw thousands of persons came out to the parliament on the day the budget was to be read. Because those national citizens, they came out to say, we want our voices to be heard. So the people must come out and speak. I agree with you.
I agree. And I know that Anil, and I know that Mr. Roberts are the leaders. They are our generals when it comes to marching and these kinds of things. Mr. Robert, Mr. Victor especially, he is a leader and he is a general when it comes to actually what you call, Brian, boots on the ground in this war. Boots on the ground in defending our democracy.
Well, I've had my share of marches. I don't mind marching anytime.
We protect them. Let me be real. We protect them, right? But you and I don't want to talk for you. But I ain't so brave like Victor, right? But I know Victor, whatever he has to march, I will protect him with the last sinew in my body. With the last drop of blood, I will protect him. With the last piece of knowledge of the law, I will protect him, right? And I call upon him and I call upon the United Nations. I mean, I don't know what the political plan is. I'm not a United National Congress higher up. I am simply a humble supporter of the party. But I don't know what the plan is, but whatever the plan is, I am sure that the leader, Ms. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, and those of you in the NATEX, you are planning something, and we are going to demonstrate our disgust of this position.
So, Kyle, let me just say this. Earlier on in the program, I was making a call for this nation, not from the UNC standpoint, but from Victor Roberts' standpoint. I was making a call to this nation that come the end of the Wali, I am going to tell the people of this country that we're going to take a stand and we're going to shut it down. So be prepared.
Victor, whatever the plan is, I want to say, shutting down might be one thing. I mean, my humble suggestion, we must get in their face. We must get in their face.
Well, I'm revealing the strategy, so I just say shut it down.
Of course. I understand that for tactics.
Right.
But I want to say, I can't tackle thing. Commissioner of Police, Jacobs, or whoever the lady is, I say today, charge me with sedition. You go ahead and charge me. If you're a man, charge me with sedition. If you police service, name man, go ahead and charge me. I am doing the case to defend the Honorable Satmaraj. Well, let's charge him. And that matter is only with the Privy Council. But if all in a man charge, I can't tackle thing. I am saying this country must rise up and it must ensure that a decision like this is never taken again.
Correct.
Never taken again. And we must get in their face. And we must tell Port of Spain, and we must tell the PNL, we must circle Balize House and tell them that they are never to do this ever again, and they are never to take advantage of our people, because an attack on one is an attack on all. And Mr. Ramdean and Mr. Ram Logan is one of us in the United National Congress.
Thank you very much, Attorney. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you very much. Take care and have a good night. And I hope I didn't rile up everybody too much.
No.
We'll be in touch. You don't worry.
Thank you very much for your comments as well.
Thank you very much.
And your support.
Have a good night. Brian, I want to say brilliant job, brilliant job, brilliant advice. Mr. Victor Roberts, I want to say keep up the good work. And I am always tuned into douglAR politics, as you know. Take care.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
So that was the voice of Kyle Taklalson, attorney at law, a man who is out there fighting on behalf of you, the people, a man who will stand and steer the course for justice and equity and equality in this country. And I agree 100% with Kyle, Brian, which I know you also agree that this is something that, and that is why I was making the point with John Jeremy, because this is not the first time that the PNM have behaved in that kind of way. And when they continue to operate, then it seems as though that they have a free getaway card to do as they please and to attack anybody as they please, when they want, how they want. Once you are a threat to them, whether it be by standing up against them, standing up for the rights of the people, they find a way. They utilize the puppet commissioner of police that they have sitting there. They utilize every avenue and they will get at you.
You see, that is why, Victor, I have to say, and Kyle raised it, in 2013, 2014, there were systems that was going to be, see, again, the UNC learns about, the UNC teaches people about understanding the rights of the separation of powers. Right? They have always been like that. We have always been a party that believes in the rule of law and believes in the separation of powers. And we must understand that. And I must say again that we've had systems in this country that has been overrun by the PNM, by this current PNM administration. But they have always repeated their past. They have always been very known to be doing that. And further to that, I saw, and just to regress a little bit, I saw that there was a protest in front of the Hall of Justice that was done by a trade union leader. And I was tempted to call you, to tell you, go and stand up next to her. You know why? At no time was that lady moved. At no time I saw any officer come and say, you need to move from here. You're protesting.
Correct.
Right?
I saw that.
At no time. So I said, but where was the sergeant? Remember Archie? There was a sergeant.
You want me to call his name?
No, don't call him name. I don't name you want to call him. Right? It just shows again the biasness. Right? And I had to talk about that. But we have to show again of what has happened with this recent development. Right? Faris Al-Rawi needs to be investigated today. Oh, sorry, I'm ponging there. Sorry. And he needs to be removed from the cabinet today. He must go. I don't understand. Marlene McDonald was fired for less. Marlene McDonald was fired for having somebody at the president house who was not supposed to be there. Right?
Why you singling out Faris only? To me, all of them in the same little soup bowl.
Well, I'm not saying no to
all
that.
All of them in the same
but
soup
however,
bowl.
Archie,
I am matter
dealing.
of fact, I am privy to some little information that the Faris is saying he ain't going down alone.
Yep.
We have some inside information.
Well, when he go,
going down alone.
let him take it, Jahaji bundle with him and let him go. Because at the end of the day, in 2015, my friend, when Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley became Prime Minister of his country, by the means that he became Prime Minister, right? This man said the buck stops with me. Well, Prime Minister, the buck stopping with you right now. And that this is not the first time this man has embarrassed your government. It's not the second time this man has embarrassed your government. This is not the third time. 3 strikes and you're out. You moved him as Attorney General. Well, guess what? As local government minister, well, he ain't doing that good either. Right? But this nonsense has happened. This man does not deserve to be in a cabinet. And he must go now. He has to go. And he must go.
You see, I think the Prime Minister made it quite clear, Archie. You cannot break rank. You can't break rank with Keith Rowley, you know. And I went to show you before that there were 2 individuals who tend to break rank. And what was the consequence? You see, everybody holding secret for everybody.
But we hear him breaking rank.
Everybody holding secret.
We hear him breaking rank.
So to the end of the day, we just can't stand up as a country and allow what is happening and what is passing for governance to continue. Because you see, the people of this country have not yet realized that the effects of what is happening today would affect their children and grandchildren down the road.
But not only that, Victor, we come through the Westminster system. Anybody saw what happened in England today? Where you saw the chancellor, the exchequer person who is the exchequer, was sacked and was removed, right? So we follow the Westminster system. I see we have a caller.
Welcome, caller.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So then, excuse me. Within the law of the land of Trinidad and Tobago, is it the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago give Faris Al-Rawi the right to do what he did?
Just asking a question. Under the Constitution, no. No.
So then what? Listen to me, right? At the time when he was what he is, isn't it that he and the Prime Minister does form the government?
Yes.
Yes. Under Section 75 of the Constitution, for a cabinet to be formed, there must be a Prime Minister and then an Attorney General.
So then how come that he could do what he could do and all this, and the country saying that fire he is the whole government had to go because he made up with the Prime Minister?
I fully agree, caller. I fully agree. If 10 men sit down in a little room plotting to go and kill a man, would they will arrest one man because he shoot the gun?
Well,
everybody.
Well, again, I'm not saying no, you know. But right now, Faris have to go. And after Faris go, all of them go.
All of them have to go.
Yes. I'm not saying no to that. But right now, Faris have to go.
My brother, at the time, he was the Attorney General. And
True,
he and the Prime Minister, because he was happening. He just come in before the Prime Minister. or after the Prime Minister? I think so it goes.
After.
He comes in after.
Okay. So
Well,
then
actually, we
if it
saw
is- if it have the Prime
when Rowley made
Minister,
the
it can
mistake
have
and
a-
he sworn in the Minister of National Security first.
If it doesn't have a Prime Minister, and it's the Prime Minister and the Attorney General is who does form the government, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, well then, come on. Paris and the Prime Minister must know what's happening because he's the head of the government. And
Caller,
if he is
I
telling
agree
you-
with you.
If you are telling me that the Prime Minister don't know what was happening, that is a blatant lie. According to the Prime Minister, he always lying to people right through. So come on, man. This is our time we have to get serious, and if we can't get serious and get rid of the Prime Minister, we wasting time. And we have to get rid of the government because you can't tell me that between 2010 to 2015, people was never living good. So between 2015 to now.
Well, caller, again, I agree with you, you know. Because if
Okay,
the
my
Prime
brother.
Minister does not want to remove Faris Arai from the cabinet, well then, sir, you must go. And when you go, call an election now. Call an election now.
But the government collapsed and it's just a matter. It's just as if the opposition stay out of the parliament. I know they go want to put them in a kind of way and they want to do what they want. But then Mr. Rowley know that he is already collapsed. And it's just a matter that the people are wrong who's supposed to be independent. They're supposed to do what they have to do, but then and again, once again, free money, you will just stay and drink a tea according.
Thank you, caller.
All right.
Thank you,
that
caller.
one. I like that
Yeah,
one.
have a good night, my brother. Victor, love and respect, right?
Yeah, thank you.
You see, Victor.
All right, my
you see,
brother, love.
What's up, Archie?
You see,
go ahead.
Victor, the nation is speaking out. The nation knows that what Faris did was wrong. And the thing about it is this, right? The Prime Minister, the Attorney General is the advisor to cabinet. I am sure, no, I never sat in a cabinet, but I am sure, no, I would have sat in a board already. I was a chairman of a board, right? I would know if I sat as chair and you are my corpsec. The corporate secretary advises the board. You are the Attorney General, I am the Prime Minister. In fact, we reverse it. You is the Prime Minister, I am the Attorney General. At no time did the Prime Minister never say, Attorney General, what's going on with this indemnity thing? What's happening there? Tell us what's happening.
Welcome, caller.
Yes, good night to
Good
the
night.
panel, Mr. Baig and Victor.
Yes, sir. Good night.
I would like to ask a question. It may be a bit off from what is concerning the elections of the internal elections of the PNM. Should Karen Nunes Teixeira win and she become political leader of the PNM, could she replace Dr. Rowley as Prime Minister, as acting? She will be acting Prime Minister. Could that be done?
No.
No,
Under the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, under Section 75 of the Constitution as well as Section 76, the Prime Minister, first of all, has to be a sitting member of Parliament. He must also be the one that he who controls the majority in the House, right? So,
Yes.
and in fact, I'll read it to you, caller. I teach law as well.
So before you read it, so caller, that's your question, right?
Yes.
All right, thanks. Take the next caller, Archie, and then Baig will answer. Right, so go ahead.
Right, so Section 76(1) says that there is the occasion of the appointment of Prime Minister. The President shall appoint as Prime Minister a member of the House of Representatives, who in the leader of that House shall command the support of the majority. B, where it appears to him that the party does not have an undisputed leader, undisputed leader, that in the House that no party commands the support of majority. So, just basically to break it down, if Ms. Karen Nunes Teixeira wins the leadership of the People's PNM, she cannot be Prime Minister because she would not be a sitting member of Parliament. All right? I hope that answered this question. All right?
Of course, it's true.
But again, coming to this, again, you are the Prime Minister. I am the Attorney General. You think that no time that it was never raised in the cabinet? It had to be raised in the cabinet. You know why? Because monies had to be spent. And you know what I want to know as well? For that money to be spent, I'm going to ask it. I work in the public service for many years. For many ministries I work into. My mother was a person who worked in the public for 40 years too. Who commissioned? Who made sure to make that check available to Peter Nelson? Because there is something called the Comptroller of Accounts, you know. The Comptroller of Accounts had to ask a question. Is this approved to pay?
Could you remember, Baig, where the government went to court in order not to pay Nelson when he made the claim in the first instance?
Yes, I remember.
Faris went to court. And then Faris withdrew the matter. And next thing we understand is that Nelson was paid.
Well, according to our good learned friend, Kyle Taklal Singh, the man is a good flip-flop. So 1 minute, hey, don't pay the man. The next minute, hey, pay the man. But see, again, you have to ask, which permanent secretary, I want to know, was this paid from the office of the Attorney General, that the monies that he would have received before? Because he was paid, Yeah. And then the permanent secretary, the PS of, I'm asking a question, I cast no aspersions. I ask a question. The permanent secretary, right, of the office of the Attorney General, did she or he give approvals to ensure that that was done? Right? I don't know, I ask him. Because I sure that somebody had to ask a question. Because I tell you, I work in ministries, and whenever somebody had to say something, I say, could we get a ruling on this? Could we get somebody to say, could this happen? I have to ask. Actually, I think it's a pertinent question to ask.
So then we have to ask another question. And in it, we have to ask a question. We have to find out from the Commissioner of Police if an investigation has been initiated into this affair of Faris Anwari.
Well, I would love to hear that too.
We have to get some answers.
Well, actually, I have some letters to him. I hope you answered, because I write some letters to him. Because just like how Mr. Ramdin trying to get back his laptop, I have a client trying to get back her property too, right?
Well, I think that's a fair enough request. We need to find out from the commissioner.
I see. Why not?
If there is an investigation.
You see, my friend, we must understand, Victor. You see this? I'd like to point it out, Actually, if you could zoom into this. You see this? You see this? You see this book? This is the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. The nice thing about it, we have a written constitution where we could look, we could find the law, we could find the section. I know what getting me with this is that Faris Arawi will come to this nation and want to tell people with that smile and smirk on his face that he did nothing wrong. Look at it. See this? It's the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. This is it here, right? And I guard this very dearly to us. And if this is not being followed and being flaunted, but as what is being done by Faris Awari, well, guess what? It's best we burn it. It's best we burn it.
So it's quarter to the hour. We close at 9, so we may probably have room for 2 or 3 more calls.
It's been
at
so
the same
fast.
time. Yeah, at the same time, I will give you at least a couple minutes, 5-6 minutes to for your closing remarks, and then
No problem.
will
you take any calls first, or?
Well, if they call, but you
Sure.
can go ahead. If they call, we'll just interject, and then you.
I will say this again. First of all, again, thank you very much for having me. I'm no stranger to your show. I'm no stranger to the douglAR Politics team. As you know, I also call in as well. I am always there with you. As we always said, we had our time at the Hall of Justice steps. So I am saying today, Trinidad and Tobago, take note that this was breached. The law was breached. Not once, not twice, now a third time. And we have a man who was sitting as Attorney General, did something that was not in the remit of him. If he could do that, well, what else could they do?
Go ahead, caller. Welcome.
Yes, well, this is Silver Fox here, Tobago.
Fox, go ahead.
I want to ask the attorney something.
Go ahead, brother.
Now, attorney, I am a sitting prime minister. Put it as that. You is the opposition, and we have an election, and you ask the EBC to carry it an hour more, and I've been beaten. I wouldn't give up. I am not giving up that post because the opposition have no right to influence the EBC to carry this election an hour more, because that is wrong. That is not in the Constitution, right? So I want to know. I would not have given up if I was Camilla, because I'm charged, right? Because Rowley would have never give up. You have to have a fight against Keith Christopher Rowley. He's not an easy man. And I want to say this: the people of Trinidad all know we should have been wrong the Parliament for Faris and them to go. A man rather to go in a rum shop, and if you collect all them men in a rum shop in one day, them enough to keep a demonstration and close down Trinidad and Tobago.
Like
but they're studying to drink, and when they don't drink out their money, they come by all your fan hamper. That had to stop. Seriousness had to go on. Rowley has to go, and he has to go now. Rowley has to go, and the whole cabinet has to go now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What's his name? Fox?
Silver Fox.
Fox, yeah, it's a very, very good thing you're saying. And you know, is the one thing before I go into to wrap up? When we want to say, let we go, let we raise we voice, and let we say what we had to say. You know what's between? A man in khaki, a man in blue, and fellas in a jeep. And if we say this, tell we all have permission to be here.
Welcome, caller. Welcome, caller.
Hello. Hi, good night, Mr. Victor Robert
Good
and
night.
Mr. Baig. This is Vicky Rampasad calling you for the first time. And what I have to say to the people of Trinidad and Tobago tonight, we sitting down as a nation, we are sitting down and we are tolerating Faris Al-Rawi and this entire PNM government to get away with every single illegal activity they have done. We as a nation need to hold the entire PNM party responsible for what they are doing, and we are taking too long as a nation to wake up and get them out of power.
Correct.
We are suffering as a nation. They continue to oppress the people, and it's too much of laws they are breaking and getting away with it. We have to put a stop to it, and we have to put a stop now. So wake up, Trinidad and Tobago, wake up. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Vicky, for your call. Thanks for your contribution.
Well, so just to finish off with that, is that, you know, there's come with the khaki pants, with the fellas in blue, and the first thing they say is, show me your permission to be here. But under the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad, under Section 4, we have a right to assemble. We see all this nonsense they want to come and tell you. But anyway, to close off, Faris Al-Rawi must go. He must go now. This entire government must go. Rowley must go. And Dr. Rowley, you said the buck stops with you. But we want to know, had you known about this, why you allow it? Because you're supposed to know better.
Welcome, caller.
Hi, good night again to everybody. Silver Fox, but that alone was not only ironical. We had a Chief Justice who are saying that he didn't want to put the country through another election. That was not his decision to make. And he let it stand. You had a High Court judge saying that it was an illegal act. How could the judgment be legal? And then the Chief Justice removed one of the people from the appeal board. He sat on it to come to make a decision to say he didn't want to put back the country through another election. That was not his decision to make.
Correct.
That should have gone to the High Court. Back to the High Court or wherever, it had to go Privy Council, wherever. And then we would have had a better judgment here. It's not that they left it alone like that. You understand? And I strongly believe Annan was preparing it to go to the Privy Council, and that is when things started to crumble against him. Because PNM did not want that. You understand? The EBC and everybody have to go. We have to clean this country. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you know, before I just say good night.
You go ahead, brother. Welcome, caller.
I will. Next caller. Oh. I will always remember that petition. I was very much involved with it. Let me tell you something, my friend. That election, I will always say, was stolen from us. I will never forget when we had to show in St. Joseph. I am from the St. Joseph constituency. At Valsain, the amount of irregularities we showed in 2015.
Welcome, caller.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Calling again for the second time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's happening now? The country must know that what the government, not the government, the administration, because the people is the government. What the administration is doing, it is very blatant and it is wrong against the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. And if the people sitting down and watching that, because as they were saying, if the next government was in power, town would have burned down. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, why they want to burn down town for the wrong things, and the next government was in power? Plenty people was living proper. They was living good. Say good night to my Santa Cruz, good night to Victor Roberts. And if we sit down and take this, well then we can take anything. Blessed night to Trinidad and Tobago. And
right. To just end on that last point, in that I was very much involved with that election, and then we had the petition. And Victor, I'll tell you.
Why didn't know your time still?
When I heard, when I heard that they said, well, it was wrong to do, but we're not going to go have a next election. And I sat there and I heard that, and I said, how could something be wrong and allowed to be right? I comes back again to the point that we are at. How can what the AG, the sitting AG then do, be allowed to be said is right? I can't understand it. Because I will ask this, Faraz Arawi, if he was on an opposition bench and any other government, any other party was in power, and that AG do that, would he be saying what they did was right? Would they say that? And I want to know if Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley was in opposition and saw that happen in government, would he be saying, hey, that is right? Because the Prime Minister needs to speak. And sir, if you can't speak on it, then sir, let me say it nicely. Call an election now. Call an election now. Let the nation say if you were right. Let the nation say if you were wrong. Because you, sir, the buck stops with you. And it is time. Faraz Arawi must be out of the cabinet of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. He must go, and he must go now. Sir, he has brought your government into dispute not once, not twice, now a third time. Your predecessors would have acted differently. And you always claimed that you are better than Mr. Manning. And you were better than Dr. Williams. Well, clearly, they showed that they're better than you. Because they fired persons for less. And you fired somebody for less. But I don't know why you keeping this man in your cabinet. I don't know why. With that, I say thank you very much for having me. It's a very good show. I will always be here. As you know, I always stand with you. I'm always there with Archie. And I am saying that we need a proper government. And that government is the United National Congress, led by Kamla Prasad Bisesa, senior counsel, a proper leader, a proper prime minister, who allowed good governance to reign. And if you fall short, you're gone. You, sir, have fallen short on many occasions. And this time, 3 strikes, you're out. And it's time to go. Thank you very much for having me.
So there you are, it, folks. Remember to stay tuned tomorrow for douglAR Politics, Archie.
Big bad show tomorrow.
Right, douglAR Politics.
Show tomorrow. I'm about to give you a little hint, man. It is raw like a lion. The douglAR and
the lion.
Yes.
Right. Oh, very nice.
And a big bonus. Senator Jayanti Lakshmindyal will be live in his studio with the douglAR as well.
Right.
So tomorrow is a big show. Sunday we have press conference. Monday I know we really want to have a Monday night forum. We really want to have a Monday night forum Monday, but we're a little hampered with the little Diwali. A lot of the MPs are involved in holding that little Diwali functions. The boss function is on Wednesday.
On Wednesday.
Yeah, so we do have a packed schedule still.
So Archie, I could ask a question?
Yes.
When the douglAR could have the Baig with him?
Well, the Baig is a part of the team, you know.
I like
Baig
that.
is a part of the team.
So
he's always here.
I like that.
So ladies and...
Oh, I'm now getting a correction from the editor. Mr. Munilal will not be there tomorrow. So, the douglAR and
Jayanti.
Senator Jayanti Lakshmi Diyal.
Excellent. Excellent show. Well, I guess they could call me the Baig and Victor.
Well, that is it. So ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Stay tuned tomorrow for douglAR Politics. The Honorable Senator Jayanti together with Anil will be in studio, and of course they will bring the facts to you. Remember to stay tuned for the Sunday morning press conference at 10:30, Archie?
Correct.
At 10:30. Monday should be a free day, and then we'll be back here on Tuesday, and of course we will continue with what we set out to do. So we want to thank you for allowing and entertaining us in the privacy of your home.
Victor, before you go, I just want to take this opportunity. I would like to thank everyone, all our hardworking councillors especially. As you know, these last few days on the eastern side of our country, we had some massive flooding. And if I may, I would just like to thank as well as the MP for Komoto Manzana, who was out there, the councillors for Sangre Grande, our councillors from Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation, Prakash Bharat, Jalen, Richard, Alderman Smalley, MP Khadija Amin. They were all out there. The eastern side of our country. I want to thank as well our colleague, Mr. Senator Anil Roberts, as the Northeast Regional Coordinator, for also assisting. I want to thank everyone who came out to assist. I know one of our main sisters has been affected, and we have asked persons to come out to her sister. You saw Team UNC on the ground. I did not see nobody from the government because they did not care. So I just thought I could put that in.
Thank you. We want to also thank very much Attorney at Law Kyle Taklal Singh, who had shared so much information with us. And remember, Trinidad and Tobago, we have to do what we have to do. We have to stand in defense of democracy. And a call will be made. A call will be made very soon. And we will have to stand up and defend our Constitution. We will have to stand up and defend the future generation. We will have to stand up.
Do I have to have my phone on standby on that
Yes,
day?
sir. You will have to stand up against this dictator who sits in that chair and believe that he could do whatever he wants and get away with it. Stay tuned. Stay blessed. Good night.